Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Science at Home. So today we're going to look at a different topic. Today we're going to look at a little thing that affects all of us all the time, every minute of every day. And most of our devices wouldn't probably even work without it. It's something that we really take for granted and we just assume that it is what it is. The thing we're talking about today is called gravity. So what is gravity? Well, if we want to understand what gravity is, we have to go back a few hundred years to a scientist called Isaac Newton. Now, strangely enough, when Isaac Newton was doing all his work on gravity, he was in quarantine too. There was a plague in London in the 1600s and everyone was sent away from the city to be in isolation. So he was staying at his parents' farm in the countryside, and the story goes that he was sitting under a tree, an apple tree, just like this one, and next thing that happened was an apple fell out of the tree. And he thought to himself, why did the apple fall down? Why does it fall down? Nothing pushed it down. Why wouldn't it just stay there? Or why didn't it go up or to the side? Why does everything fall down to earth? The more he sat there and thought about it, the more he got confused and realized that there must be something to all this. So, like a good scientist, he put his time in quarantine to good use, and he did loads of thought experiments and calculations. And he tried to figure out what was going on with this whole falling down business. He also looked at the night sky, and he looked at how the planets move around the sun, and he looked at how the moon moves around the earth. And he thought, well, why is that? Why do the planets all go around the sun? Why does the moon go around the earth? And why do things fall down to earth? Well, to explain that today, we're going to use some work done by another scientist called Albert Einstein, and we're going to talk about a thing called space-time. Now, hopefully using all of this, we'll be able to give you a better understanding and a feeling for why objects fall down, why planets go around the suns, and why we have gravity at all. Let's go have a look. So this is how I'm going to explain the concept of space-time to you. Well, what is this? This is just a piece of stretchy fabric stretched around in a ring. So in order to explain gravity properly, it's helpful to imagine yourself way out in outer space. Imagine that you're out in outer space, there's no gravity pulling you up or down or anywhere, you're just floating around. And imagine that the things that kind of hold you up is this concept of space-time. Okay, imagine that there's some sort of fabric that's holding you up, this fabric of time and space. Now, if some object was to pass by, let's say some spaceship or some meteor or something, you would imagine it would go in a straight line, and it does, just like this. Objects always go in a straight line if space-time is flat. Straight line. Okay, that makes sense. We can imagine something's going to keep going in a straight line forever. Why would it bend? Now, let's imagine a really heavy object nearby, something like the sun. Yeah, the sun is a huge, heavy star that's there. If there's a really heavy object in space, it's going to warp or bend space-time. Imagine this is the sun. It bends and curves our space-time. So imagine all the space around you is bending and curving. Well, then what happens if an object passes by? Now we know if something like a meteor or some sort of ship or something passes somewhere near the sun, it's going to be deflected. And let's see if the same thing happens. We imagine our object passing by the sun, it gets deflected. It curves off. It doesn't go in a straight line anymore. So we can understand how the weight of the sun is bending this space-time, this fabric of time and space. All right, so what's this got to do with the planets and the stars? Well, if we imagine the way that the planets go around the sun, yeah, we should all have a good understanding of that. You might remember it back from your school books. You remember that all of the planets go round in a nice circle, round and round around the sun. But why is that? We just take it for granted that they do. Well, we can use our little analogy here with our fabric of space and time to explain why that is. We can see that the sun is bending the fabric of space and time. And if we imagine this is a planet, yeah, let's see what happens to this. Around, and around, and around. So we can see it's going around and getting attracted into the center. Now, we know that the planets go around, yeah, but they don't crash into the center. Why do they crash into the center in this case? Well, we have friction. These little balls are rubbing against this fabric and it's causing friction, so it means they're getting slower and slower and moving into the center. In outer space, those planets keep going around, but they don't get closer to the center because there's nothing for them to cause any friction against. They're just floating in outer space, there's no air. So they're going to keep going round and round. Now if we imagine two heavy objects close to each other, they're always going to be attracted. This one gets attracted to this one. Yeah, you can never have two objects nearby without them being attracted, because they're pulled into each other's curve in space-time. And what about the moon? We know that the moon goes around the Earth at the same time as the Earth goes around the sun. So let's have a think about how that might work. I'm going to use this ball to represent the Earth and this to represent the moon. One is small, one is big, and the sun is even bigger. It's attracted to the curvature in space-time that the Earth is making. It's making a bigger curvature, so the moon goes around. But they all go around the even bigger curvature here. Let's try that again. They go around, and you can see the moon orbiting the Earth. Okay, so now we can get a kind of a picture of why this works. Yeah, we can imagine all these planets are just being pulled into the center, but because they have some sort of motion in this direction, they just keep going round and round and round. There's no friction, so they don't slow down and crash into the middle. Well, what about a spaceship? Yeah? Let's imagine now, instead of this being the sun, let's imagine that this is the Earth. Okay? So we've zoomed in and now we're looking at the Earth's bend in space-time. Okay, so we've zoomed right in, so this is the Earth. And imagine this is a spaceship that wants to leave the Earth. The spaceship won't be able to leave the Earth without a lot of energy. If it has a small amount of energy, it will leave a little bit and fall back. It will keep getting pulled back by Earth's gravity. Keeps getting pulled back. The spaceship will never be able to leave the Earth unless it has enough energy to get out of this dip in space-time. Then it can leave the Earth. So you can see you have to be able to escape this big bend in space-time to be able to get away from the Earth. So if we think about people being attracted to the Earth, there's something going on with some dogs there, but let's think about people being attracted to the Earth. How does that all come back? Well, imagine you're a little person on the edge of the Earth here. You're just getting attracted towards this curvature in space-time. And we're a really tiny object, so that means the Earth doesn't really notice our curvature in space-time, and it's not going to get attracted towards us. We always get pulled down towards the Earth. All right, so there was quite a lot to take in there. Okay? And of course, this is always an analogy, so there's always going to be little things that you can find different ways of explaining it, but to get that concept across of why things fall down, I think it makes a lot more sense when you think about it in terms of curvatures in space-time. Okay, so the next time you're sitting around and you see an object fall down, or you jump up and you feel yourself being pulled down, think about that. It's the Earth's curvature in space-time that's pulling you back in towards the center. All right? And when you look out at the stars and the planets and you see their motion, think about it in that way. Try and visualize these curves and these bends and these holes, and you'll be able to get a better idea of it. Okay, so we went into a kind of a deep concept of physics here today, and there's all sorts of people working in theoretical physics and astrophysics who are really digging into the bigger layers of this and imagining how this would work in three-dimensional space. But I hope you were able to get some sort of an insight from that, and it can maybe feed your imagination a little bit to look into it in a bit more detail. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.